We're live, people.
Hello.
All right, Washington County Quorum Court is now called into session.
Your audio's on.
The echo is really bad.
There's so much feedback.
Are we good?
No, there's way too much feedback.
It's Judge, it's on your microphone speaker.
Is it on mine? Is that
Yes,
better?
sir.
Okay, I
Yes,
think we
sir.
got it.
That's
All
better.
right, welcome to the Washington County Quorum Court, October 15, Thursday. The meeting is now called to order. Got a full agenda and got a full house, so really glad to see everyone. With that, JP Duncan, will you go ahead and lead us in prayer and pledge?
Yes.
Father God, thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Washington County. God, I pray for wisdom tonight. Lord, I pray that we would honor you with our interactions, God, with our discussion. Lord, I pray we'd be civil. God, give us wisdom. Lord, help us conduct the business of Washington County in a way that glorifies you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pete Duncan, tonight again, we'll ask everyone to use your raise hand function. Can you guys can you hear that, JP Johnson?
Turn the volume up, Judge.
Okay,
That function is.
all right. With that, let's go ahead. Ms. Patty, will you do the roll call to record the members who are present for the meeting tonight?
Susan Cunningham.
Here.
Patrick Deakins.
Here.
Sam Duncan.
Here.
Lisa Ecke.
Here.
Ann Harbison.
Here.
Suki Hires. Suki Hires.
She's on mute.
I see she's here. Andrea Jenkins.
Present.
Lance Johnson.
Here.
Willie Lemming.
Present.
Eva Madison.
Here.
Sue Madison.
Here.
Butch Pond.
Here.
Derek Thomas. Chandra Washington.
Here.
Judith Yanez.
Here.
Judge, we have a quorum.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Patty. Let's go ahead to item number 3, the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Judge,
Yeah.
I see JP Harbison.
yes, I would like to add to the agenda a resolution. The resolution's name is a little bit long, but I'll read it. A resolution supporting collaboration between the Washington County and the National Institute of Correction Community Service Division for technical assistance, development and implementation of a Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, Pretrial Services Division, and other recommendations set forth by the National Center for State Courts.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to add to the agenda item, that would be item number 22. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so that would be item number 22.
Judge,
Any
I'd like to
other-
make a,
Is
yeah,
that JP Lemming?
yes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move item 20-1 up to the front of the agenda tonight.
Item 20, is that the resolution?
Yeah, the pilot agreement between
The pilot agreement? Okay, so we'll make that the first item in the new agenda, a new business. So I'll go in front of, first item in the new business. So that'd be item number 9, in front of number 9. Okay, any other, all in favor?
Aye.
Well, did
Aye.
we get, hold on, let me make sure that JP Lemming, did we get a second to move that one?
Second.
Sam Duncan.
All right, we have a first and a second to move item to the new agenda, new business rather. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Any other items on the agenda, adoption of the agenda? All right, so we have an adoption of the agenda
Judge,
with those changes.
I move resolutions and ordinances be read by title only.
Okay, that's coming. We have the adoption of the agenda, a motion.
Judge, this is Eva. Suki Hires is texting that she's been kicked out of the meeting and can't get back in. Can someone in IT help her with that, please?
Mr. Sidney, I think I saw you. Can you connect with Miss JP Hires?
Thank you.
Okay, need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the adopted agenda has been adopted. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to preliminary motions, item 4, JP Madison.
I move that resolutions and ordinances be read by title only.
There's a motion to read ordinances and resolutions by title only.
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, now we have citizens' comments. At this time, we'll again have citizens come and visit with us. They're allotted 15 minutes for comments. Citizens are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. When you call, we just ask that you again state your name and where you're from. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and we'll, if you're on Zoom, we'll go ahead and acknowledge you. Council, do we have anybody, citizen comments?
At this time, there are no hands raised, Your Honor.
Citizen comments.
No citizen comments.
I move approval of the minutes.
All right, we'll go ahead and move to item 6. Item 6 is approval of the minutes.
I move approval of the minutes.
JP Madison, and we have a second, is that JP Pine, for the approval of minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the minutes have been approved. The judge's report, we're going to be brief on the judge's report. I have really only a couple of things to share. One, today, in 1969, Governor Rockefeller proclaimed October 15 the Day of Poetry here in Arkansas, as well as Rosa Zagnoni Marioni Day. She was obviously a great poetess and put into the Arkansas archives. So you guys are interested, you go into our county's archive page to access that at the women's suffrage packet. I'm reminded, I see her, Miss Marie Roy out of Lincoln. And from time to time, I see her articles and she's written some poetry. And in fact, she just did one the other day called Learning to Just Accept It. So in honor of Poetry Day, Miss Rosa Zagnoni Marioni Day, again, just encourage citizens to go to our archives and go to our women's suffrage page to kind of learn a little bit more about Poetry Day here in Arkansas, in particular, Rosa Zagnoni Marioni Day, and our own local here, Miss Marie Roy. Saturday, we'll celebrate 192 years of birth here in Washington County. October 17, 1828, Washington County was established. We were the 17th county here in Arkansas, named after, obviously, our first president, George Washington. We began as a Cherokee territory following the 1817 treaty. The courthouse was centrally located here in the city of Washington City, and today is now known as our modern day Fayetteville. So again, want to wish our county happy birthday come Saturday. Finally, one of the recommendations, and we just had a resolution just added to the agenda, but one of the recommendations that came out of our National Center of the State Court study, who did our criminal justice system study was to have a criminal justice coordinating committee. Again, this will be key stakeholders and others that will make up the composition of this criminal justice coordinating committee to develop strategic plans as well as collaborate around our whole county criminal justice system, sharing data to help aid in decision-making here in Washington County. The coordinating nominees for the coordinating committee is going to be Judge Zimmerman, Judge Lindsay, Judge Beaumont, Judge Taylor, Attorney Lester, Prosecuting Attorney Matt Durrett, Public Defender Denny Heislip, Sheriff Helder, JP Johnson, who heads up the chair Law and Enforcement and Courts, Judge Story, the District Judge, Nick Robbins, who runs the Returning Home, formerly incarcerated and now running Returning Home, help with our diversion, Mike Parker, who leads our state probation, Frank Johnson, former Chief of Police Community Leader, Lourdes Piredo, engaged Northwest Arkansas and victim support advocate, as well as Dr. Tyler, CEO of Ozark Guidance, and Chris Workman, Chief of Prairie Grove and Small Town Drug Task Force. I need a motion to accept the CJCC committee, and then we would go ahead and get information out to the county regarding our first meeting, which would be October 23rd at noon. I did have conversations and continue to have conversations, with some of the JPs, but I've also circled back with Michelle Cern, who directed our study, and she agreed to facilitate our very first meeting. So with that, I need a motion to accept the nominees for our CJCC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Hand raised.
All right.
Judge,
you.
Judge, I'd like to have a copy of that in writing.
Pardon me?
I'd like to have a list of people that's on that list.
There, JP's Eva Madison.
Our information before we voted, but it went too fast to do that. I was curious who was involved in appointing the members.
I do that. JP
You did it all?
Yanez.
There was no collaboration with the sheriff or anyone else?
Absolutely. Many of these members are already part of our coordinating board for our CSU.
But that didn't answer my question. I was trying to figure out who was involved in selecting the members.
I selected those. I did have conversations with Judge Lindsay as well as Sheriff Helder. Miss JP
Well, then I would like
Yanez.
to be recorded as a no.
Okay. JP Yanez.
I would like to know the demographics and the background of each person when it comes to social justice issues.
We can work on getting something to you.
Okay, and I was a no too.
All right. With that, we can put information out about the meeting October 23rd at noon. We will now go ahead and move on to item 8, unfinished business. Council, will you read that ordinance?
An ordinance appropriating $6,557.87 in the Quorum Court budget for 2020.
JP Harbison.
I move that we pass this. This is the money that is being used to put a sound system in the new courtroom for our new judge. So I move that we pass this.
Second.
Wait.
We've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
It's on a second reading.
It's on the
You have to
second
have a
reading.
motion to
Okay.
move to a third reading.
It's only on the second reading, unless it's a suspension of the rules, we'll just move that on to the next
JP Hires has her hand raised.
next county meeting. JP Hires and then JP Harbison.
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm just confused because according to the ordinance about holding hybrid meetings in which members and citizens may appear in person or virtually, which is not the same thing as the justification that we just received. So I'm a little confused by that.
Yes, you're correct. JP Harbison, that is
Okay,
the,
I misspoke. I didn't look at the ordinance. That's correct. but I still go on and move that we pass this, because if we have the word hybrid meeting in there, that means that we probably can get it paid for later from COVID funds.
I'll still second.
All
Oh,
right,
it needs to be moved to a third reading.
all right. So that'll just move on to the November meeting unless there's a suspension of the rules to move to a third and final reading.
JP Madison has her hand raised.
JP,
Eva Madison.
Eva Madison.
Yeah, I was just curious, since it seems like those who want to be there in person are doing so, regardless of mask mandates, why do we need this additional money? I don't know what it's prohibiting.
Go ahead, Counselor.
What's been proposed by I spoke with IT, and what's been proposed for this sound system would actually allow each member that is actually present in person to have a mic on them so that it's not so hard to hear them. Right now, they have a central mic system that's set up, and if they turn their head, then you cannot hear them. And so with this system, if you would give me a second to finish, please. With this system,
I didn't really
I
ask a question of you. I was asking a question of the sponsor. So I would like to hear from the sponsor about the purpose of the ordinance.
So with this system, each person
Not
would have
gonna
a
be
mic
muted
that they
constantly.
can, with this system, would
I'm not
JP Madison?
muted constantly, Mr. Knight Judge. If I have the floor, then I have the floor.
JP Madison, go ahead, JP Harbison. Do you want to speak to it?
Okay, this is for the sound system. It's something that can be used in the future. It upgrades our sound system, and using the hybrid method, as we're doing now, and hopefully in the future, we can get it paid for with COVID funds.
Well,
Doesn't have the floor.
I guess my question is, why is it so
JP
important that we
Madison.
have a hybrid meeting when
Madison.
Zoom is free?
JP Madison, let me call you. JP
Well, I
Harbison, are
had
you
the floor and
finished?
you interrupted me, Judge. So I asked a question of
Excuse me,
JP.
JP Madison, you do not have the floor. Please stop talking over the judge.
Okay,
As a
I am
parliamentarian,
so tired
I'm
of the
telling you that you
parliamentarians.
need to stop. Thank you.
The
JP
parliamentarian-
Harbison, JP Harbison, are you finished?
Point of order.
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay.
You know, it's.
Lance Johnson is calling point of order.
That is a point of order by
JP Johnson, point of order. What is your point of order?
This motion is not on a third reading. There shouldn't be any discussion on the second reading, should there?
Well, the JP Madison asked, what was the ordinance? And so I was asking JP Harbison to explain it. She did. With that, if there's a motion to move to a third and final, or we would just wait until November for the third and final reading. All right, with that, we'll move that to the third and final.
Excuse me. I'd like to suspend the rules and put it on the third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion to suspend the rules and move to a third and final reading. Council, will you read that for, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
All right, Ms. Patty, will you do a roll?
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deacons,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
Suki Hires,
No.
and Sue Madison.
No.
Fails. It'll move to a third reading at the next meeting.
All right, that ordinance fails. It'll just move to the third reading in November. Item 9, we'll go ahead and take up the resolution from JP Lemming. Council, will you read that one by title only?
A resolution supporting collaboration between Washington County and the National Institute of Corrections Community Service.
No, that's item 20, which would be the pilot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
That'd be item number 20.
A resolution of the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, supporting a pilot agreement between Washington County and Today's Power, Inc. for the purpose of assisting in financing for a solar generation facility.
JP Lemming.
The little lady that should be on the air to explain it for us, she'd do a lot better job than me. Brian, can you see if she's out there?
Who would that be? Ms. Comer? Ms. Comer.
Ms. Kelly Comer.
Yes,
I think that's
Is she on?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Kelly, can you hear her?
yes, I can.
Good.
I was looking for the ability to maybe share screen. Is that possible?
Yes. Give me just a sec.
Okay.
One moment, please.
Okay.
Now she should have the ability.
All right, try it now. There you go. Ms. Comer, you okay? Ms. Comer, can you hear us?
Lost her.
Okay. Sorry about that.
There you go. There you go.
Fun times with Zoom. It muted me when I started trying to share screen with you all. Okay. Can you guys see my presentation?
Sure.
All right. My name is Kelly Comer, and I'm an attorney with Today's Power. I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight, but want to speak to you guys a little bit about a project that we're scoping out in Washington County and a pilot for the project. I also have on the call with me Michelle Allgood. She's an attorney with Mitchell Williams, and she works with us in handling all of the pilot agreements. Wanted to start by giving you guys a little bit of background about who we are. Today's Power is a solar developer out of Little Rock, Arkansas. We are somewhat unique in that we are utility owned. So we are actually owned by the electric co-ops of Arkansas, of which Ozarks up in Northwest Arkansas is one of our members, and Mitchell Johnson actually sits on our board. We started out doing solar for the electric co-ops, and then we moved over the years into commercial scale solar facilities, as well as energy storage, electric vehicles, charging stations. And then the project that we've done that you guys would probably be most familiar with is the solar facilities out at the wastewater treatment centers for the city of Fayetteville, if you're familiar with those. The project that we're looking at doing in Northwest Arkansas, we've scoped out some property in the city of Lincoln, and we actually have a handful of cities and school districts that are each wanting to have solar to some capacity. And the best way for us to achieve this is to package them all together and put them on one piece of land. But it's actually going to be a handful of customers that are each have a meter out there and that are each benefiting from the system as a whole. So as a whole, we're looking at about 2.4 megawatts of installed solar.
Can you change the screen?
Change it?
Well, is that where we're supposed to be?
The project description side?
We can't see it. Yeah.
Ms. Comer, your presentation is still on the very first slide.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Let me,
There you go.
okay, but you guys aren't seeing that as,
We got the project description up now.
okay. Are you seeing it as a slideshow or is it just showing you it as like, slide? Okay. Can you see the payment in lieu of taxes?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so that was the description of the project. Just some verbiage up there for you all. And that brings us to the pilot ask. So I'm sure you all are all too familiar with what a pilot agreement is, but just as a refresher, what we're seeking is a payment in lieu of taxes. So it's a scenario where we're going to enter into an agreement with the county where you guys technically become the owners of the project, leasing it back to us, and then we issue payments that are at a reduced rate of the normal taxes we would otherwise owe on that. And to see what that actually looks like, you can look at this slide. So these numbers aren't firmed up just yet. We're still kind of finalizing contracts, but right now that system that I was talking about, the total system, is approximately going to cost about $9 million. So this factors in the payment, that cost. And this is what the payments schedule would look like over the course of 20 years. So you can see that the largest chunk of that goes to the school, and then the county and the city both receiving a portion of that as well. In total, what we'd be looking at is close to $400,000 in payments over the course of 20 years, which is all new money for those groups. And so what I want to mention is that we often go in and ask for pilots on the front end of installing a solar system. It lowers the cost of the system. It allows us to reduce the price that we offer the customer. And the way we go about this is it generally starts with me calling the judge. So I called Judge Wood and we had a conversation. After that, I visited with Dr. Marianne Spears at Lincoln Consolidated School District. She's the superintendent there. And then after that, I had a conversation with Mayor Doug Hutchins, who's the mayor of the city of Lincoln, and answered any questions that they had in regards to this. And then I come to you all and I present to you all, and hopefully I can bring to you all their support. And so I was able to get their support on this. They are actually both participants in the project themselves. They are going to be not only seeing energy savings, but they will also be seeing these pilot payments as well. And that's it. So we're here tonight to just ask that you all support us moving forward with the pilot to allow us to move forward with this project.
Thank you, Mrs. Comer.
Thank you.
JP Lemming, and then we'll go and open up the questions. Anything else you have, JP Lemming?
Oh, I was just going to ask her some questions if it was time to start.
Yep, go ahead.
Kelly, was y'all involved in the solar panels on the Chris Prim farm out in Lincoln too? Was your company the one that put that one together?
I do not believe so.
You don't believe so?
No, not to my knowledge. No.
Okay, there's about a 3-acre solar field out there that sells back to Ozark too. I just thought y'all might be involved in it. Another question to clarify, this is no cost to the county at all, is that correct?
It is no cost, correct.
It's all paid back through taxes, and you get tax exemptions and that kind of stuff. It's not a nickel spent from the county whatsoever on this project.
Correct. There's no money being asked of you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, JP Lemming. JP Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. My question is for our county attorney. This resolution expresses our support of a pilot agreement, and I don't think we know the details on that pilot agreement. Mr. Lester, will we have another opportunity to finalize this agreement when we actually see it?
No, the pilot agreement, it's something that's done through state law, the payment in lieu of taxes. What it requires is the blessing of either the county judge or the quorum court. And so that's why they get a resolution. Like you can see, it's a resolution. It's a non-binding. It's just saying that we support this. They still have to go through several steps with the state in order to effectuate that. And so this was just the quorum court giving its blessing to say that we do support this program. We think it'll be beneficial for the county.
So there is no other agreement. This is it.
That's correct. There's no agreement for us necessarily.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Public comments?
JP, or Beth Koger has her hand raised.
Citizen comments, Beth Koger, go ahead and state your name and where you live.
Beth Koger, 3661 Embry Drive, Fayetteville. I'm going to ask the court to consider this more, not to pass on it tonight, because I'm sorry, it was on the agenda and I looked at it, but I haven't really researched this. But I'd also like to know more about what today's power is and how, I mean, what other projects they've done, and are they a nonprofit, and how did they come to be doing this is, I mean, some of my questions on that. But I mean, how do we know? I guess my question basically is, what guarantee do we have that they can pay these payments? No.
Thank you, Ms. Koger. Any other citizen comments? Citizen comments. All right, with that, Ms. Patty, will you take the roll?
Willie Lemming,
Sure.
Well, you know, we didn't get a motion to pass the resolution.
oh,
Move to pass.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass the resolution. Ms. Patty, will you go ahead and take the roll?
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deacon,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
Vicky Hires,
No.
and Sue Madison.
No.
This resolution passes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, JP Lemming. Consent agenda items. Council, will you read the consent agenda items by title only?
Consent agenda item number 1 is an ordinance de-appropriating surplus amounts from full-time salaries for various departments and restoring those amounts to unappropriated reserves as required by the 2020 budget controls for the third quarter of 2020. The second consent agenda item is an ordinance transferring $18,000 within various departments in the county library budget for 2020.
JP Harbison.
Okay, I make a motion that we pass items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass the consent agenda items. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Public comments? All right, Ms. Patty, will you take the roll?
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deacons,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
These ordinances passes.
Thank you, Ms. Patty. We will go ahead to item 10. Council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Ken's Auto Sales.
JP Deacons.
Thank you, Judge Wood. This is a small used auto sales lot that wants to go in next to Highway 412 out in my district. I think it's gonna sit on 8 acres. The conditional use permit limits it to only being a car sales lot. Passed the planning board with unanimous approval. I move we pass item number 10.
Second.
Have a motion by JP Deacons. Who was the second?
Heckey.
JP Ecke. Any discussion? Well, this is only on the second reading, so this will just move on to the third reading in November unless there's a suspension of the rules.
Judge, if I could, I move suspension of the rules to advance to the second reading.
Third.
There's a motion
Third.
to suspend the rules and move to its third and final reading. A second by
Heckey.
JP Ecke. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, council, will you read that for the third and final time?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Ken's Auto Sales.
Move passage of item 10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass item 10. Any discussion? All right,
Muted himself.
any public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty, will you take the roll?
A point of clarification.
This was only on it's only on the
It's
first,
only on the second?
it's only on the first reading, right? It's on the first.
So you've moved a second and you've,
It's moved to the second, so yes, we do have one more. JP Deacons.
Move to suspend the rules and put this on the third and final reading.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to move to the third and final reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, Counselor, last time.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Ken's Auto Sales.
Any
Move
discussion?
passage of item 10.
We have a
Second.
motion to a pass and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? Okay, now, Ms. Patty.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deacons,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shonda Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
This ordinance passes.
Thank you, Ms. Patty. Item 11, JP Lemming. Counselor, will you go ahead and read that one? It's on its first reading, so again, Counselor, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for 62 Motor City.
JP Lemming.
Again, this is a little car lot that wants to go in on Highway 62. I have some concerns with, they've been using this lot already, and it's already got probably 15 to 20 old cars on it that's being salvaged. And I know I talked to Nathan today approximately a little bit about this, and I'd like to pass it, but I'd like to have some clarifications on a few things, and I'd like to go ahead and, I don't want to suspend the rules and move it fastly. Let's just do this on the first reading and give us a little bit more time to look at this, please.
All right, JP Lemming, this one to move on to second reading in November. With that, we'll move on to item 12. Ordinance, Counsel, would you read that one by title only?
An ordinance changing the title of juvenile caseworker to juvenile detention officer in the Juvenile Detention Center budget for 2020.
JP Pond.
Yes, and I'll ask Ms. Harbison, has this all been taken care of in the next year's budget?
No, it hasn't.
It has not.
No, because it's passing in this budget, in the 19 budget, so it's not become a part of that. It would roll over if it did, and so, no.
Okay, that being said.
Oh, wait a minute. It said Center for 2020. But we haven't addressed it, no.
It's not been addressed. It's,
Unless that money is in the juvenile detention center budget. And since we have the director here, I can ask her, did you have this money in the 2020 juvenile come up? If it's in that budget, then it has been approved. But if it's not,
So for the 2020 budget, so initially when we first did this, we were asking for it to come to the meeting at the end of August. So we were going to ask for it to hopefully try to be approved for September through to the end of the year, which would only be $10,192. And it was initially written saying it would be internally funded because, it was written saying it would be internally funded because we have 3 unfilled positions. And it was only going to use $10,192 for the remainder of this year. For next year, which was the figures that I didn't have at the last meeting, Mr. Shannon said to Mr. Watson, for 2021, it would be a total of $43,000, and I can't read out the exact figure, ma'am.
okay, go on and finish, and then I'll.
So for 2021, it would be a $43,000, and I don't know the exact figures without FICA and insurance included, but $51,000 with insurance and FICA included, which would be 2.8% increase of the entire total budget for 2021.
Was that in your budget when you submitted it in August?
No, ma'am, because.
Okay, so it's not in the budget?
No, ma'am, because Mr. Watson advised me not to include it in the 2021 budget, just in case if it was not approved.
Okay, in the 2020. So if it's in the 2020 budget, then it's going to roll over into the 2021 budget. Okay.
JP Madison.
Okay.
JP Eva Madison, and then, who else saying? JP Eva Madison, and then JP Harbison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I think JP Harbison said part of what I was going to say. From our discussion in committee, it was not in the 2021 budget. And one of my concerns was that with the percentages that have already come out in the ordinance that's on agenda item 18, it would no longer be accurate. So that was all I was going to say was my understanding it's not in the 2021 budget. And given that the general fund budgets have already come out and are on the agenda tonight, it wouldn't be included, and it would alter all the percentages in that budget. Thanks.
That's correct. JP Harbison, and then JP Deacons.
Well, I just wanted to make a clarification on the rollover money that went over into unappropriated reserves, because when we go into the 2021 budget, that money goes away and is in the general carryover that rolls over. So, I understand your position in doing it in 2020. You still had money in the budget to do that.
Yes,
So,
which was a total of $99,000.
yeah.
JP Deacons.
Oh,
JP Harbison, are you finished?
yes.
JP Deacons.
I continue to feel obligated to talk about our spending in this county and what we want to do with the reserve. I mean, it seems to me now in meetings, we've spent the rollover at least once. We've spent Russell Hill's new money that he came in and told us about a couple weeks ago in assessment. We're spending that. We've got a 27th pay period down here on the agenda tonight. I mean, I want everybody to have everything they need and everything they want, but at some point, we're going to have to start listing out some priorities for the county, and I just want to continue to highlight that to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Deacons. Anyone else?
JP Pine.
JP Pine.
Do we have Mr. Watson to also speak on this?
I don't see him on.
Item number 12.
I don't know if he's here. Is he on?
No.
He's not on. And so to JP Harbison and JP Madison's, if you guys pass this, then you still would need to amend the budget for 2021 to bring this forward. Otherwise, it will stop and they'll be back where they were prior to you guys passing this.
Sue Madison.
JP, Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. That's essentially what I was about to ask. If we pass this, are we just funding this position with this new title for the remaining months of this year? That's what it sounds like if we don't amend the budget. So
That's correct.
it sounds like an 11th hour or 10th month request. Thank you.
All right. So with that, JP Harbison, what's your pleasure? Or JP Pine, I guess. JP Pine.
I thought we just JP Pine.
I'd like to, would you repeat, please, what percent increase is this going to amount to in your budget overall? I think you had a number.
For 2021, it would be a 2.8% total increase for the overall.
2.8% increase in the overall budget at JDC, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I want to say something else. We have these things come forward many times throughout the year, and the complaint is when we try to get these things taken care of throughout the year, people say, this is something that ought to be done at budget time. And I've never really agreed with that, because when we're at budget time, it just makes it more confusing. We're not able to give it as much time to look at as we are maybe in the middle of the year, or when the need comes up. And so we have this problem with things coming up, and it's, well, this is gonna get us outside the budget. But we can't do it now because it's gonna be confusing. And I'm gonna say that I would move to pass this, approve it, recognizing that it's gonna be a less than a 3% increase in this particular budget. And I'll ask again for each one of us to consider, is there ever a right time for something like this to come up? Thank you.
JP Harbison.
If we pass the percentages that are set, that have been presented, then that money is going to have to come from some other line item in her budget. I don't see increasing her percent of her budget, because this was the reason for setting these percentages, and these have to be carried out 4 and 5 places for people to get their money. But I would be voting in favor of it, but it's going to have to come out of her budget. The percent of the budget that's already been established we're not gonna increase her percent of the budget. I mean, as far as I understand this budget process and using these percentages, this is why these were set. So anyway, thank you, that's all I have to say.
JP Pine, what's your pleasure?
He's made a motion.
Oh, we have a motion to pass.
I made a motion to pass.
All right. We have a motion to pass.
JP Ecke.
JP Ecke,
Thank you, Judge. There's a person already in this position being filled, correct? Or is this unfilled?
I have 3 positions that are unfilled.
You have 3 positions that are unfilled.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
you have somebody right now to fill this position?
The 3 positions, no,
No,
ma'am.
this one right here that we're asking for, changing the title to juvenile detention officer.
Those positions are already filled. In other words, juvenile, the title is juvenile care worker.
Correct.
And I'm asking to change juvenile care worker to juvenile detention officer.
Okay.
That's the overall.
Right, but is there a person, do you have a juvenile care worker?
Yes,
And so they would just, their title is going to be changed and that's it, correct? With a pay increase?
yes, ma'am. The base
That
pay.
you already have the person, what I'm trying to say is that position is filled.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have 3 others that are not filled.
Yes, ma'am.
Are those 3 positions, have you made a request for those 3 positions in your budget for 2021? Or did you eliminate those 3 positions?
They're not eliminated.
They're not eliminated,
No, ma'am.
so they stay open.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you were to look at those positions that stay open that are already included in your 2021 budget, would you be willing to say, we're not going to fill those and we're going to fill this one? And that's where the money's going to come from.
Until I'm out of compliance. So in other words, right now, I'm not out of compliance because of the number of residents that I have inside my facility.
Okay.
If at any point past our COVID-19 restriction comes into play, where we will be at 36 still,
Okay, so
then I will
this
be
is-
out of compliance with that.
Your COVID restriction is,
So right now, because of the pandemic, we're not holding double bunked juveniles in a room.
okay,
So then my population in my facility is at 27.
okay,
So I have 27 rooms, and there's only 1 resident per room
okay.
to manage the COVID-19.
And at this point, we don't know when that COVID restrictions will expire, correct?
Right.
It could go for another year, correct?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
So if it goes through another year, then we don't have to worry about it budget-wise.
Yes, ma'am.
So I ask that you consider that option? I'm not comfortable passing this tonight until you think about it, you look at your numbers and see if by eliminating those other positions and just filling this position, that will meet your 2.8, and then you'll stay exactly where you are for the next year, 2021.
I can consider that, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
One other question.
JP Pine.
That'd be okay.
Could you consider, you've got 3 that are not filled.
Yes.
Would it be possible to only fill one of those when you wind up being out of compliance in order to cover this position?
That would
And then possibly, do some part-time. Would that possibly work?
That would depend on the amount of residents inside the facility.
Sure.
But as it stands right now, 27, we're in, with just the population being at 27, we're in compliance. My only worry in considering, removing the slots would be how difficult would it be to get those slots back? Because we've been, working for JDC 2000 to 2010, we've been in that position before. You see what I'm saying? And so it was very difficult to ask, to remove a position and then ask for it back. So I've seen this before. So that's my worry, is if I say, yes, I will remove a position and then have to come back and ask for that slot back.
I don't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry, but perhaps we could put a caveat to this in saying,
JP Madison, JP Eki, hold tight. Are you finished, JP Pine?
I just wanted to point out to you, and I want you to understand, my heart is in what you're doing here.
Yes, sir.
And this discussion is to make sure the entire court is included in what we're doing here.
Yes, sir.
And we all need to be aware of what goes on, and I appreciate you're giving us a very clear picture of the situation.
Yes, sir.
I would just think that you have this need, and I believe that you would not be coming back to fill these other positions until they were needed. And that's where I am on this right now.
Yes, sir.
And I thank you for coming in, and thank you for being so patient with us. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you as well.
You recognize JP
I'm
Eki.
going to second JP Pond's motion.
Okay, recognize JP Eki.
okay, I don't know what is this? Is this his original motion?
I moved
Yes.
to pass.
All right.
Pass.
And a second by JP Harbison. And again, it's only on his first read. Well, no, we go ahead and, any other discussion?
Yes, Judge.
JP Eki and then JP, was that Duncan?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, JP Eki.
Judge, and my apologies for not being recognized. Out of sight, out of mind, I apologize, but we know that you're there. Would you consider a caveat saying, yes, I will eliminate these positions, however, in the future, I'm asking for the court's cooperation and understanding and to add these positions back? I mean, the last thing I think anybody on this court wants to do is make it so difficult for you to operate and have a stranglehold on any department. That's not what we're all about. Constitutionally, it is our responsibility to fund public or county services the best way we can. And that's the budget restraint. So if we can eliminate those with an understanding and asking the court to work together.
Considering our current position right now, I am willing to eliminate 2, but we are in need of a male position. Okay. So I am willing to eliminate 2 positions.
Okay. 2 positions. And can we work out those details if we were to pass this? Work out the details in your budget for 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
With that
Judge.
caveat.
With that caveat of let's work together.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on, people now.
Thank you,
Judge.
JP Eki. JP Duncan?
So I was going to ask if there was going to be carryover from this year with having 3 unfilled positions, but it sounds like if we're eliminating 2, then actually the funds needed for 2021 will also go down. It sounds like that we won't actually have to increase the 2020 budget either to fund this. You'll be able to self-fund it through unfilled positions. Did I miss something, or is this essentially going to be self-funded now?
That would be correct. JP Sue Madison, then JP Harbison, and JP Pine.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. Members, I share some of JP Eki's concerns about this issue, and I'd like to point out that these 4 items, 12, 13, 14, and 15, are shown being sponsored by the chair of personnel, Mr. J.P. Pond, yet personnel didn't meet. And consequently, at budget, we had some discussion that rightfully belonged in personnel committee. These did not get the thorough review that personnel would have given. So could we try to make sure that appropriate committees are meeting as needed, even during this pandemic? Because most of this discussion at personnel was not about the money. It was about the appropriateness of the title and what was happening to the other positions. Just a plea is my
Thank you,
request.
JP Madison. JP Harbison, and then it was JP Pine.
My concern about this is that everybody understands that, you know, she has money in her budget to pay it for this year, but unless she has those positions in her budget for next year, then my concern is we're passing the percentages and things to sort of freeze the amount of money in elected officials' positions or in departments. And we're asking them to, we're not limiting line item transfers or anything like that. We're asking them to work within their budget. So if you can do this within your budget that you have presented, then, you know, I don't think anyone will have problems with it. Thank you.
JP Pine.
I would like to express gratitude for the county judge and staff, and department heads, people working through this pandemic situation. And also, it seems frustrating, but we're all trying to get by with fewer meetings. We're not exposing each other to each other as much as we possibly can. And sometimes we have to realize that this is just not the way we usually do things, but we're all trying to get by with less. If it's fewer meetings or whatever it is, we're having a meeting right now to discuss something. Maybe under normal conditions, we would have had a personnel committee, but it's maybe not that good of an idea for us all to be meeting as often as we normally would under normal conditions. Anyhow, thank you all, and I'm going to recognize that occasionally we forget. Occasionally, some of us even forget to put our mask on when we're getting close to somebody else. There are just so many different things that we're doing now that we don't normally do. And anyhow, thank you.
Thank you, JP Pine.
Okay.
Eva Madison.
I'll just tell JP Pond that my 10-year-old wears a mask for 7 hours a day when he's at school, including at recess. So I think grownups can do it too. But what I wanted to say about the ordinance is, and I want to make this really clear to our JDC director, I know your folks are underpaid. I think most county workers are underpaid. I want to give every county worker a bigger raise than what we're able to, as evidenced by my attempts on Tuesday to give everyone a raise. I share some of JP Deakins' concerns about just sort of constantly spending our savings that ultimately doesn't yield savings. But I think what I'm a little concerned about is sort of the equity of what we're seeing is some departments can find the money, but I don't know that all departments can. And so I don't know what that says about a situation where we've got a director like you who's able to say, hey, I can eliminate this position to give these other people raises. That's great. But I also think, what about the departments that don't have that luxury? What about those employees And I don't think we should make you eliminate positions, especially if you need them to be able to give other people a raise. I think we should figure out how to do it the right way. My final comment is just that if the only way to have this pass, it sounds like from several people who've spoken, is for you to eliminate a position, that will still impact the 2021 budget and we will have to fix it. It doesn't happen automatically. All personnel positions and changes have to be approved by the court per requirements of legislative audit and state law. So if this passes and the intention is for the director to eliminate a position, we will absolutely have to revisit this in the 2021 budget. So I don't want anybody to think that if we pass this, it just all smooths out because it won't. So I'm still conflicted on how to vote because I think these folks do need a raise for the work they do. I'm just not sure we really have the means to pay for it. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, JP Madison. And JP Pine made a comment about forgetting, and I have truly lost sight of our, during the discussion, and I know we've had JP's 2 and 3 times, and again, we need to really pull back to our parliamentary procedures. But I do feel the discussion was worth it, and Director Collins, she does a phenomenal job, and the request has been there. But again, I think the discussion was necessary to have. With that being said, again, I'll ask the parliamentarian, make sure he keeps me on track. Any other discussion before we go ahead? We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion before we go to public comments? JP Pine.
Yes, JP Eva Madison kind of jogged me a little bit there, and she's made me recognize by her description of it and her discussion of it, probably eliminating one of those 3. No, it would have to be 2. Because we're talking about a position that's not been there, not a reality until now. Anyway, maybe I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe that's what we need to do when we have committee meetings. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, JP Pine. Public comments. Public comments.
No public comment.
No public comments. With that, Ms. Patty, let's go ahead and do the roll.
Willie Lemming,
No.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
No.
Susan Cunningham,
No.
Derek Thomas,
No.
Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deakins,
No.
Lisa Ecke,
No.
Sam Duncan,
No.
Shonda Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins, Andrea Jenkins, Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Move on to the second reading.
All right, that one fails, and that will move on. Correct, Patty, that one didn't pass. That will move on then to second reading in November.
that is correct.
Item 13, Council, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance changing the title of veterinarian technician / patient transport coordinator to kennel supervisor in the animal shelter budget for 2020.
JP Pine.
Yes, I have a question for Ms. Harbison on this one too. Is this already included in the 2020 budget?
It
Yes.
was I think it is. I don't think, I'll have to look and see if there's a grade change, but I think it's in the 2021 budget,
Right.
but I'm not sure. If there's not a grade change, the money would be there for this position because it's just changing the titles.
That's correct. JP Pine, your pleasure.
We're waiting on it.
JP Pine, I'll come back. JP. Eva Madison.
So I'm looking at the 2021 budget and this is it's listed as the vet tech patient transport coordinator. So it's not in the 2021 budget.
Okay, Judge,
JP
both of
Harbison.
these are grade 14s, so, and it's replacing that, so that money would be in that budget since, there's not a change in grade.
JP Pine.
I would move to pass this ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Public,
Well, if anybody before JP Madison, she's spoken once.
anyone else? All right, JP Madison. Eva
I just
Madison.
wanted to thank you. I wanted to restate what I said in the budget committee. My concern is the impact of this on the veterinary services that the shelter is able to provide. We've not really understood why this change is needed, other than we've just been told that it's hard to fill the position. But eliminating vet tech services is a concern to me. So I'll be voting against this just because while it may be revenue neutral, or excuse me, budget neutral, I am concerned about the loss of these services at the animal shelter. Thank you, Judge.
You know, we haven't stopped doing any spay and neuters. We have to do those. They've been doing the general shots. We can't adopt any animals out of the shelter without doing those. And the kennel supervisors, the director, they have been doing that since the vacancy. So they've been doing that and they rotate and they're really working all the people to do that. And so this is a change in title only, but the work will continue and has continued since the vet tech position was vacated. But I hear your concern. Any other discussion? All right, public comments. Public comments? With that, Ms. Patty?
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins, Andrea Jenkins,
I think she's on mute somehow. I don't know if she's stuck, but
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
No.
we have 12 for and 2 against, so this passes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Patty. We'll go to item 14. Council, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance changing the title of janitorial person to janitorial trainer / floor technician in the buildings and ground budget for 2020.
JP Bond.
I believe this one here is, also with the title changes, that's not correct, that's a grade change from a 6 to a 12. And again, I'll be asking Ms. Harbison if she's aware whether that, or not, that this is gonna be in the 2021 budget.
Okay, if we keep the percentages, that means that they will have to find the money to pay for that, in their 2021 budget. There should not be new appropriations for that. And, you know, basically, this is Judge Wood, one of Judge Wood's departments, so, you know, that's, up to whoever's the department head, I guess, Gonzalez,
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm saying it's not in the budget, but if they want this position and they can find the money within the budget that was presented, then, they need to do that.
Judge Wood, could we have a comment from you on this janitorial person?
Oh, I think JP Harbison said if we have that and we had to work through the percentages, and that's what we'll do.
All right. Move to pass.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Sue Madison.
JP Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I just want to explain my vote on these 4 items. I'm voting no on all of them because I think most of this discussion should have happened in Personnel Committee, and it really didn't get the proper attention to these title changes and duties changes in budget because that's not where it belonged. That's all I have.
Thank you, JP Madison. Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments? Seeing none, let's go to Ms. Patty. Ms. Patty, will you take the roll?
Willie Lemming,
No.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deacons,
No.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins, Suki Hires,
No.
and Sue Madison.
No.
Second reading.
8 for and 6 against. So it'll go to second reading next month.
All righty, got moved to November. Item 15. Council, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance changing the title of social worker in the Circuit Court 3 budget to juvenile probation officer in the Circuit Court 3 budget for 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Fine.
Thank you. This one is, I believe, moving from a grade 18 to a grade 15. And so, that's, gonna be a lesser of a pay. I can't see any reason to, question this very much. I don't usually try to struggle and fight for those where we have somebody going to a lesser of a grade. I move to pass.
A motion to pass.
Second.
A second. Any discussion? Any discussion? JP Harbison?
I just want to say again that in the 2021 budget, it's already been set, so they will have to use money that they have already in their budget to do this. This is a decrease, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Any other discussion? Thank you, JP Harbison. Public comments.
Norma Frisbee.
Let me go to JP Washington and then we'll go to public comments. JP Washington.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I just have a question, and I don't know if this was discussed in the Budget and Finance meeting, but what was the rationale?
She's about, Ms. Norma's about to come on and talk. She runs that area. Public comments, Ms. Norma, you want to go ahead? You got Ms. Norma.
She's on.
Ms. Norma, can you hear her?
Need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead. How are you?
Thank you. This is Norma Frisbee. Judge Zimmerman was not able to be present today, but I would like to explain to the JPs that had questions about the change. This position was being held by a social worker when we first opened the Evening Reporting Center in Springdale. We had a social worker there from 2016 to about April 2019. The position has been vacant since April 2019 until now. We have not been able to fill the position. I believe Judge Zimmerman and I even came in front of the Quorum Court earlier in the year, or maybe at the end of last year, to ask for the position to be offered at a higher salary to be able to attract applicants. That still did not work. We do have our community-based provider, which is Community Service Inc., that is now located at the facility where we have our youth reporting center. And our community-based provider is actually going to be offering the services for the counseling, the group sessions to our youth that report to the center. With the new, the second juvenile court and the second juvenile judge that's going to start in January 2021, we do actually have a greater need at this point for a probation officer position. As you can see, the salary is almost a $10,000 difference. So it's not that we're asking for money, it's just we are trying to make the best of the positions we have and actually utilize our staff, to benefit our current situation.
Thank you, Ms. Norma. JP Washington, did that answer your question?
Well, yes. I guess I have a follow-up question. So you mentioned, I just want to be sure I understand you correctly, that the roles and responsibilities of the social worker are being filled somewhere else through that agency that you mentioned?
Yes, so our community-based provider, which is the Community Service Inc., the state, the Department of Human Services, the Division of Youth Services gives them money to be able to provide services to Washington County, specifically Washington County Juvenile Court clients, so that we can prevent detention and commitments to the state. That new facility is in the same building where we used to have our social worker, and they are picking up those services that our social worker used to offer.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Norma. Any other public comments? Ms. Sarah Moore?
Hi, Sarah Moore, Fayetteville, Arkansas. I had raised some concern about the change of this. Can you hear me? Sorry, I see
Yes.
JP Johnson struggling to hear me. Sorry, try to speak up. I had expressed a little bit of concern previously, and I really appreciate JP Washington's question about this position. I'm still really struggling, though, with coming out of a recent assessment on the adult side showing, the need for different services with pretrial and reentry. I'm understanding that there is a provider that we're saying is now going to be able to do these services when we couldn't hire the head count of the social worker under the county. I'm really wondering though, some of these providers come and go and their contracts have different periods of time. So I'm very curious, and I don't know if maybe there could be discussion with the court on what that relationship looks like, what that contract, how long they've been around, and then how long we know for sure that they'll be in place with the current funding cycle and when they look to renew again. Because I find it incredibly important with some of the numbers that have come out of the conversations with the Fayetteville public school system. 50% of the students arrested in the Fayetteville public school systems were Black children, even though Black children are only 10% of the population. And so I find it to be incredibly important that we focus on any resources like social workers and trauma specialists and things like that that can help to prevent the school to prison pipeline. And so I think this is a very important position. I hope that we'll continue to invest as a county in roles that look at ways that we divert people out of the justice system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. Any other public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty, we go ahead and take the roll.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shonda Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins, Andrea Jenkins, Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison.
No.
Have 11 for and 3 against, so it passes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Patty. We'll move on to item 16. Item 16, Council, will you read item 16 by title only?
An ordinance to establish a sub-fund of county general to be called the Coronavirus Relief Fund and to declare an emergency.
JP Harbison.
Okay, I think this is very self-explanatory. We'll be getting funds, and those funds need to go into a particular sub-fund so that we can keep track of how it is spent. I move to pass 16.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shonda Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins, Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
This ordinance passes.
Thank you, Ms. Patty. All right, item 17, Council, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance appropriating $38,800 from unappropriated reserves in the Circuit Court Automation Fund to the small equipment line item in the Circuit Court Automation budget for 2020.
JP Harbison.
All right, this was the ordinance for the new courtroom to put the sound system in, and you requested that we use circuit court automation funds to do this. It does not come out of general fund. I move that to pass 17.
Second.
Got a motion to pass item 17 in a second. Any discussion?
Sue Madison.
Any
JP Eva
discussion?
Madison.
JP Sue Madison, then JP Eva Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I just have one question that I probably should know the answer to. Where is this courtroom going to be?
In the court annex.
Where? Now,
In the
which
court
building?
annex.
Which building is called the annex?
Across the street from the courthouse here.
123 North College.
Is that where Judge Taylor's courtroom was?
That's correct.
So this new judge is moving into that space. Didn't we move emergency services or somebody there?
That's correct.
Are
We
they
moved
still
them
there?
downstairs. That's correct.
Oh, is there a basement to that building?
No, it was an unfinished area that was remodeled for the emergency group.
So now we have to add security back to that building that we'd
That-
saved money by not having security.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
JP Eva Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I would just really appreciate an update on what the plan is for this judge. I know that the individuals who are running for the position don't know, and I've tried to find out about it. I agree that funding this for the annex as a temporary solution is a good idea, but I hope that's not the long-term goal. Can you give us some insight into that?
Ideally, we will be coming back looking at either bonds to go back in and do the original plan, which was to go and
Okay.
build that out there at the South Campus. Obviously, we pulled that all out just because of what was going on with COVID, but ultimately, our desire is to have that second judge out there at the South Campus
Okay.
with Judge Zimmerman.
That helps a lot. Thank you, Judge.
Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments. All right, with that, Ms. Patty?
Judge, could you tell me who seconded? I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
That was JP Ecke,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shonda Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins, Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
This ordinance passes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Patty. We will go to item 18. Council, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance setting controls for the 2021 budget.
JP Duncan.
So the original intent of this ordinance was to grow unappropriated reserves. And as we just discussed, we have an opportunity for a new courtroom. And if we were to grow reserves and follow the guidelines set in place and not do massive infusions and not overspend our budget in different areas, we would be able to self-fund that without issuing a bond. So the intent of this is to be able to do things just like that, self-fund projects like capital improvement projects, like a new courtroom, or what if even years from now we were able to lower the millage rate? Wouldn't that be incredible to lower taxes for the citizens of Washington County? So that's the intent. As we've seen tonight, we've had this ordinance has shown that there's guardrails already set in place, that we've set ourselves up for success. We've voted against a few different things that would increase the 21 budgets already, and we're not even in 21 just this evening because of the guardrails set in place with the percentages. So I know we've had a ton of conversation around this, and we're already seeing the potential success of this, is that, hey, this sets up some guardrails. It's a step in the right direction. We have a ton of opportunity to further eliminate unnecessary spending. And again, my hope is that we will grow our reserves, we'll continue to find unnecessary spending within the budget, eliminate it, and then eventually lower the millage rate. I think this is the first step in doing that. So I move that we pass this.
Have a motion to pass and a second. Discussion, JP Eva Madison and then JP Patrick Deakins.
Thank you, Judge. So I think we're kidding ourselves if we're saying that we're eliminating expenditures, because all this ordinance did was take everyone's requested budget in the general fund, add that up, then divide those budgets by the total to come up with the percentage. So we're not actually scrutinizing spending. We're just giving everyone exactly what they asked for. We're not increasing reserves or lowering reserves from where they are today. The county budget is not like your personal checking account. And the part that bothers me the most is the percents are wrong. The comptroller, in figuring this, did a spreadsheet. And if you look at the spreadsheet and take out the decimal places, they're correct. But this ordinance rounded those to one decimal place. And when you're talking $30 million, hundreds and thousands and 10,000s matter. And so what we're doing is giving people a little more or a little less than what they asked for, which I don't think is the intent of the ordinance. I think it's creating a lot of undue stress for those folks that think their budgets are being reduced and they don't know how they're supposed to cope with that. And then I'm still remain very concerned about the procedure that was done behind the scenes to gather 8 co-sponsors for an ordinance before it saw the light of day. I encourage members to vote against this, to hold it up so that we will have time to more fully explore the budget process. But we are absolutely kidding ourselves to say that this ordinance before us tonight is in any way scrutinizing expenditures, because all we did was accept everyone's budget and give them that number back, or at least that was the attempt. And so we can talk a big game, but actions speak louder than words. Thanks.
Thank you, JP Madison, JP Deakins.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I still support the intent and the goals of this ordinance, but unfortunately, I believe that in practice, it hasn't done us any good. So my message is that I feel like we as a quorum court, I know possibility that none of us might be here next term, but I feel like we've gone out and we've tried to develop trust with the elected officials, and I think we've taken the first step. And what I say and caution everyone in the future is that this procedure and this track is going to be used in the future. The elected officials are going to have to help us out and grow that reserve. I'm still going to support this ordinance, but it did us no good. It did us no good this year, and it removed our ability to have discussions in detail of the budgets, and all that is our fault, because on the back end of that, we just continue to add spending on the back end of this budget. So I still love that it's revenue driven up front. We're trying to plan ahead of time. It's going to take some more tweaking, though. I've talked to several elected officials. I think it's a positive change. I think everybody's behind it, but it's going to take some trust, and it's going to take working together in the future. So I appreciate everyone helping us, and I look forward to perfecting the project and the ordinance and the project in the future. Thank you, Judge Wood.
Thank you, JP Deakins, JP Harbison, and then JP Pond.
And then JP Madison.
I agree with what JP Deakins said. We set a benchmark this year with the percentages. And yes, all the percentages have to be carried out 4 or 5 places for it to work and to be fair to everybody. And that's been done. Shannon Worthen has corrected all those so that it's not rounded up or rounded down. So he's worked hard on this to make this work, and I'll be supporting it, and I will be watching it, even though I'm going off the court. I think it is, we're going in the right direction in trying to control spending, because if we do it by the percentages, elected officials are going to know basically what they are going to get, and they are going to be able to put their expenditures in the line items they need. Now, like I have pointed out tonight, if we keep this in place, then they are going, if they want new positions, they're gonna have to look in their budget before they come to the court for new positions and new spending, because they've been given a pot of money to spend, and we're gonna trust them to do that and to be efficient stewards of the public's money. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Harbison, JP Pond, and then JP Sue Madison.
Okay, notice I don't have a hat on. I don't feel appropriate wearing a hat inside the building, but my hat is off to the departments and individuals who have been able to reduce their budgets. We're living in an area, northwest Arkansas, Washington County, that has showed us overwhelming amounts of growth. And for us to continue to serve the people of Washington County as it grows like it has, there's gonna be some budget increases. I don't encourage them, but I don't see how you're gonna keep from having those happen. Even as the cities, with new census and city limits reaching out, the county's area does shrink a little, but we have departments, and we as a county, we still serve the people in those cities. There's gonna be some increases. I'd just like for you to keep that in mind as we go on, and not try and don't beat yourselves up that there wasn't more shrinkage than what you had hoped for. You've got to understand, like I said, as this county grows in population, budgets are gonna have to increase. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Pond. JP Eva Madison.
Sue Madison. Sue Madison.
JP Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I just want to say that I will be voting no based on the comments made by JP Deacons and JP Madison. Thank you.
Any other discussion? JP Washington.
Thank you. I have a question. JP Harbison mentioned that Mr. Worthen had corrected the numbers. Have we seen those corrected numbers?
He had them, they are corrected and he has them.
Okay.
He will send them out as soon as I wanted him to send them out, is what he said, so.
Okay, so having that answer in good conscience, I honestly don't see how we can vote to approve something when we have not seen the corrected numbers. And the intent of the original ordinance, at least what I thought and why I agreed to co-sponsor, was that we were going to simplify and streamline this process. But it seems like that it has really overcomplicated it, and we're no further along than we were when we started, and that was the original intent. And so having said that, I cannot support this as is, and I would respectfully ask that my name be removed as a co-sponsor.
Any other discussion? JP Madison, and then we'll go to public.
Thank you.
JP
I know
Eva Madison, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know I spoke once already, but I just wanted to respond to two things. I have sensed from the comments that people think this is going to be binding beyond 2021, but it very clearly only applies to next year. And moreover, we can't bind a future quorum court on a budget issue. So if folks think this is binding beyond 2021, I think they need to relook at it. The second issue kind of piggybacks on what JP Washington was talking about. I'm glad that there's some attempt to have the percentages reflect the true percentages, but that's not in the ordinance we're being asked to vote on. What came out of committee has a single decimal point. I raised that issue in committee and it was rejected. So I don't think we can, after something comes out of committee, I don't think we can just be revising it sort of behind the scenes and expect that to be good. So I'll be voting against this for all of those reasons. Thank you, Judge.
Any other discussion? Public comments?
Janelle Smiley.
Public comments. Ms. Smiley, go ahead, state your name, where you live.
My name is Janelle Smiley. I live in West Fayetteville.
Go ahead, Ms. Smiley.
Thank you, Judge. I am very pleased that the court is concerned about the reserve fund. That is an issue that I've been talking about for a long time. And to hear it finally come up is great. I am concerned about a lack of accountability and a lack of transparency in how this occurred. I don't think that the ends justify the means. And to have had co-sponsors, given what we have already heard in various sessions, appears to be a clear violation of the Open Meetings Act. So in addition to the issues that have been raised by JP Eva Madison, JP Sue Madison, I would ask that the court at least postpone a vote until there are real numbers, there's something to review, and it is not, I guess, what the court would be voting on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smiley. Public comments.
Bobby Hill.
Treasurer Hill.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Bobby Hill, Washington County Treasurer, Fayetteville, Arkansas. I still haven't had answered, like my budget would be exactly what I asked for, which is fine. But if you give raises, I still haven't heard where that money's going to come from, because there's no 100% of my budget is personnel. There's nothing to take it from. Going to automation, we've taken everything out except for those 2 personnel positions. But I still haven't got clarification on that. But anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Hill. Public comments.
Beth Koger.
Ms. Beth Koger.
Hello. Okay, thank you. I just want to say, as a taxpayer of Washington County, I'm disappointed the court didn't scrutinize the budget and didn't have department heads come in to speak, because that's how we learn things. That's how we learn about the budget and what's happening. I mean, how do we really know that we're getting what we need from these percentages? And another thing that is a great concern to me is JP Harbison said that the criminal justice criminal justice assessment study would be discussed and at the meeting earlier this week, and then it got moved to this week, and I haven't heard one word about it. I'm very worried about that, because there's no discussion as to which budget that's going to come under. It's going to take funding to enact those recommendations from the National Center of State Courts, and that's very important, and I'm afraid that it's getting overlooked, and I'd like to hear someone talk about that and how we're going to do that, because it needs to be done.
Thank you, Ms. Koger. The prosecutor direct.
Good evening. I appreciate your willingness to let me speak on this. I just kind of want to touch on what JP Eva Madison said in reference to the percentages, because as I looked at the budget, the percentages based on those numbers increased my budget $10,000, which, hey, if that happens, I'm eternally grateful for. But the problem is that with those percentages, it decreased the public defender's budget by $4,000, which I think is unfair. And so I don't know which formula you're going to use, but if we stick with the rounded off budgets where I get an additional 10 and the public defenders get 4,000 less, the request that I would make would be to take 4,000 from the additional that I got and give it to the public defenders, because I don't want them to have their budget cut and then my budget increased. So I don't know if that's possible, but I don't want the public defenders to have, I don't want to benefit at their expense. So they need money as much as we do. So if that's something that's possible, I would certainly be in favor of it and ask that you all do that. So thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate your work.
Sherry Main.
Thanks, Brad.
Sherry Main.
Sherry Main. Public comments, Sherry Main. Say who you are and where you're from, where you live.
Sherry Main, 15574 Riches Road, Fayetteville. And I've been involved in, well, I've been listening to the budget meetings if they've been having. And, can y'all hear me okay?
Because I started drinking because tonight sucked.
JP Jenkins, your mic is hot.
Go ahead, Ms. Main.
She comes on right now. All right. Anyway, I wanted to make a few points that I did bring up in the budget meeting the other night, but I'll repeat again. I think they're worth repeating, but I don't agree with the percentages either. It's kind of fuzzy math, and the percentages don't come out to what the departments actually wanted in their budget. Some are under, some are over. And so that I don't think that resolved anything as far as the percentages. But my other question is, if the budget's approved as a whole and not looked at by department, some of these budgets have gone up tremendously by department. One of them is the county judge budget, and that's from the general fund for an additional $425,000 for the emergency fund. Well, if you're going to set up the COVID fund, any monies coming into the COVID, is that going to reimburse back that other fund the judge is spending for out of the general? That was one question I had. And then the county attorney budget has gone up tremendously by $92,000 for an extra deputy county attorney. And then the environmental affairs budget was reduced by $85,626 by choosing not to replace the position of the environmental affairs director or officer. And that really concerns me because of all the stuff that's going on at the Winslow pit and who's signing the reports and different people signing them. And it seems like nobody knows who's on first base there. And that's why that's all out of compliance. So those things concern me, but if you take those three things and add those back to the general budget, that's $602,626. So I think it was JP Harbison that said, we have appointed and elected all of you to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. So listening to this, I just want to challenge all of you to be good stewards of the county taxpayers' money. And this is not lightly taken.
5 seconds, Mrs. Main.
I'm sorry?
5 seconds.
I'll finish up right there. I mean, I don't need any more time. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Ann Harbison had her hand raised.
Any other public comments? All right, with that, Ms. Patty, will you go ahead and take the roll?
Willie Lemming,
No.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
No.
Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deacons,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Max.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison.
No.
I have 7 for and 8 against.
All right,
This
that
will
will
go on.
move on to November. All right.
Judge Wood?
And do I have a hand? Who was that?
Judge Wood, if it pleases you and the court, can we maybe take about a 5-minute recess?
We need a break. We got 2 more. Let's go ahead and recess for 5 minutes. Back in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Because I'm on my phone, so I don't want to broadcast.
hot, they'll burn you.
So we got another hot, ordinance, so. Then we're at resolutions, huh?
All right, hold on.
All right, let's go back in session here. We're on item 19. Council, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance appropriating $1,308,438 from unappropriated reserves in various funds to various budgets to compensate for the 27th pay period for county employees.
JP Harbison.
Okay, this is the 27th pay period that we discussed, and so we've decided that since we know how much money we have now, that we need to go on and pay the employees for that 27th pay period. You've got to realize they've already worked and earned this money. This is something that occurs every 11 years. It's really not a pay increase. But it does show up as an increase. But they have already worked and they need to be compensated for the work they have done. Therefore, make a motion to pass 19.1.
Second. There's a motion and a second to pass item 19. Any discussion?
JP Johnson.
JP Johnson, Lance Johnson, JP Johnson.
Thank
You
you,
recognize.
Judge. I have several questions about this, but I want to make a comment first. I feel like this court, because we have postponed this decision on something we've talked about in this room for several months, because we postponed it as long as we have, I think we've done a disservice to the county employees, and we've for certain done a disservice to the taxpayers of Washington County. My first question is, when the amount of money was calculated, was the amount of money the sheriff has in his budget for the same purpose been factored into this number? On page 183 of the sheriff's budget, he talks about the monies that he's got appropriated in his 2021 budget to take care of this issue. Has that been factored in or considered? Okay, my second question. When this payroll was figured for the salaried employees for 2020, was their payroll divided by, was their salary divided by 26 or was it divided by 27? My third question is, what portion of this is for our salaried employees? Because I absolutely agree we have to pay the hourly employees. I've been able to wrap my head around that. But our salaried employees get an annual salary, and if there's 27 pay periods in the year, their salary should have been divided by 27, not 26. And it looks to me like this unappropriated reserve that we talked about on Tuesday night that was at 4.3 million is now 3 million. But I think before I can vote for this, I've got to have answers to a whole lot of questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, JP Johnson.
JP Deacons.
JP Deacons.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I completely agree with all of JP Johnson's questions. I'd like to see those answered too. My particular concern is with the salaried employees. I agree with JP Johnson. The hourly employees have definitely works those hours, and we owe those employees that money. But if we had addressed this problem earlier in the year when it first arose, and we knew about it very early on, I think Treasurer Hill brought it to our attention in January or February, it would have been possible, I think, at then, to adjust these salaries to make compensate for the 27th pay period, and it probably would have been a more minor adjustment. And I thought at the time, we all agreed, well, we'll take care of this in the 2021 budget. Now I feel a little baited and switched in terms of that approach, and I don't know where we found the money to take care of this payroll now. I don't feel like we have it. I'm continue to be extremely, I know you guys think I'm just whipping a dead horse. I'm extremely worried about our reserves, but this is another hit that the reserve is going to take right on the chin here. And so I would like to see the numbers without the salaries being involved and see what we're dealing with there, and try to come up with maybe a different resolution to this problem than what's sitting right here in front of us. So I appreciate the time. Thank you, Judge Wood.
Thank you, JP Deacons. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Public comments?
Bobby Hill.
Treasurer Hill, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. I was just going to answer any questions that I could for anybody that, starting with, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Starting with JP Johnson on the sheriff. I don't put the budgets together, so I'm not sure on that question. It is the reason, and that's my fault a lot for flip-flopping for Patrick Deacons there. Early on, we wanted to do it this year in 2020, and then COVID hit, and we thought revenue was going to fall off the cliff. So we said, why don't we wait until 2021? And then when revenue did not take the hit, we said, let's see if we can get it done this year. There wasn't any bait and switch involved. It's just circumstances. So that's what we're asking now. The main problem, we can do it in 2021 and adjust the salaries of the salaried personnel. But we have to pay people by policy handbook on the day before the holiday, which is the New Year's Eve. So if we pay next year, we're going to have to pay them on New Year's Day, and no banks are open. So it might be the next Monday before anybody gets their money for their first paycheck of 2021. If we do it in 2020, everything is as normal. They get paid the 31st, but you still would have to encounter all the costs of the salaried personnel going that route. What are the questions that you have, JP Johnson?
If you pay on the 31st, do the salaried people then get a 27th pay period for 2020?
Yes, the initial problem was the 27th payroll was left off the budget for 2020. So everybody at that time was divided by 26. That's the problem.
Say that again, sir.
And on the 2020 budget, everybody was divided by 26. So
are we saying that if we give them the 27th pay period on the 31st, that we're essentially bonusing them 2 weeks' salary, correct?
In that way of thinking, yes. I mean, it's definitely going to cost the county more, for salaried and for hourly. But I mean, they're not working. They're doing the work. It's just, depends on how you look at it.
Any other questions for Treasurer Hill?
JP Harbison.
JP Harbison?
In the past, was the pay period for that year like this year, was that divided into 27 pay periods, or was it just in the 26 and they got the extra bonus at the end of the year? How was that handled in the past 11 years ago?
Well, I've been here for 2 of those. Before this one, they were paid as normal. So everybody got 27 pay periods.
So they were paid, like, we should have had 27 pay periods for 2020, and each pay period would have been a little bit less.
I mean,
that
could have been a scenario, but the scenario we're in right now is everybody's getting paid the same for every pay period. Well, as a normal year, they would get the same amount for 26, but now they're getting the 27th payroll, which for salaried people would be more. Well, everybody's getting more. But every two
like
weeks.
11 years ago, they didn't get more. When you did the pay period, you divided it into 27, and so they didn't get more. They got whatever their hourly rate is, and the salary people got theirs. Is that correct?
No, they were paid, the 27th payroll was paid in its entirety. There were no adjustments made.
11 years ago?
Yeah, 11 years ago, and then 22 years ago. They were.
Basically, if we pay the 27th pay period, it's the same that we've done in the past.
It is what we have done in the past.
Okay, that's.
Johnson.
JP Johnson.
So if we did it wrong in the past, do we do it wrong again?
If you don't think it should be by 26, then that would be correct. Also, I would like to say that salaried, there's, I think 25% of the salaried personnel making in the 30s and 40s, so they would feel a hit too. If it was divided by 27 instead of 26.
Any other questions for Treasurer Hill? Treasurer Hill, and is it over the course of those 11 years that it's not actually 26, it's a little more than 26, which is why it rolls up to 27 in 11 years?
It is something like that. I'd have to look back at the AAC notes. But yeah, it's not exactly 2 weeks on everybody's paycheck or something like that. And by the time the 11th year rolls around, then an extra payroll is stuck in the calendar year.
JP Sue Madison.
Okay. JP Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. After listening to JP Johnson's very good questions, I'd like to withdraw my second.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other public comments?
Well, no, I've already commented. So.
Sherry Main.
Sherry Main.
Yes, if I'm understanding it correctly, this year in 2020, their total salary paid, which say is 35,000 if you're on a salary, that should have been divided by 27. So it would have been accurately paid instead of divided by 26. Is that correct? I mean, I'm just making a comment, but it seems we're comparing apples and oranges here. If you owe them the money, you have to pay it if they've worked, and you haven't factored it into their salary as an additional pay period. That's the way payroll works. I mean, salary, you divide it by the pay periods, and that's what they get. Hourly, it's not going to affect the hourly because they're working the hours of the extra time. So I don't see what the confusion was. I mean, you want to do it correctly. You don't want to keep doing it wrong. You want to do it correct. Correct it, move on. That's all I'm saying.
What happened?
Thank you, Ms. Main. Any other public comments?
JP Eva Madison?
Any other public comments? JP Eva Madison?
I just wanted to respond briefly to what Ms. Main said. I understand what she's talking about, but the problem is we didn't do that. We set their bi-weekly pay based on 26 pay periods rather than 27 pay periods, and we owed them that money. It would basically be like working 2 weeks and not being paid, which is not an option for hourly employees, but would be a significant problem for salaried employees. So this issue should have been addressed in last year's budget, but it wasn't. But Washington County is not unique. Employers all over the country are dealing with this issue, and they addressed it prospectively, and we're sort of addressing it reactively. And I'm not sure we have a choice but to pay for this 27th pay period with the way we've operated this year. Thank you.
JP, any other public comments?
Judge Wood,
Who's that?
Billy.
JP Lemon, go ahead.
Bobby, where does this take our reserves to?
Bobby's not on anymore.
Bobby's not on no more?
Nope.
Yeah, he's off.
So Sam, you're saying it's gonna take it down to around three? Is there anybody out there that could answer that question?
Bobby's on now.
Bobby Hill's on. Treasurer Hill?
Yes, since we didn't know which way we were gonna do, I accounted for most of that in the carryover. It should not affect the unappropriated reserves for 2021. Except possibly the jail. I might have to tweak that a little bit, but otherwise it should not affect unappropriated reserves.
So you're saying they're gonna be 4 million, 5 million, 2 million? What's gonna be in unappropriated reserves in 2021?
Well, looking at the budget summary right now, it's around, I think 4.2 million last I saw.
So this million that we're pulling out of 2020s is
Yeah, since
not going.
we were thinking it might be in 2020 budget, I pretended like it was being paid. So I took it out of the carryover. So at least we'd have an accounting of it. If we want to do it in 2021, I will add to the carryover and the budgets will be higher, but it still shouldn't affect the unappropriated reserves that much.
Okay.
JP Lemon?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Patrick?
JP Dinkins.
Patrick Dinkins.
JP Dinkins?
This be the last one.
I think that concerns me more than the 27th pay period. That somehow the treasurer has a, what is it? $1.3 million honeypot sitting around in his figures somewhere. Now, I'm trying not to get aggravated, but this budget stuff is hitting a moving target every time we sit in this seat. Some nights we come in here and this county is cash strapped and we're about to go out of business. Other nights we come in here and we got more money than we can know what to do with. And here I am trying to do the best I can for all these county employees. This is a heavy job. And now we got a 1.3 million honeypot in carryovers that we've never been told about. That is absolutely 100% ridiculous. I don't know who budgets that way, and it makes me aggravated that we sit here and pull our hair out with each other and debate each other and disagree, and most of the time it's respectively, but sometimes it's not. And then now we're being told this, that all of a sudden we got $1.3 million somewhere? That's ridiculous. I yield.
Thank you, JP Dinkins. Any other comments, discussion? Ms. Patty, go ahead and take the roll.
Willie Lemming.
We got money, let's do it.
Yes?
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
No.
Susan Cunningham,
No.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deakins,
No.
Lisa Ecke,
No.
Sam Duncan,
No.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins, Suki Hires,
Yes.
and Sue Madison.
No.
Move on to the second reading.
7 for and 7 against.
Right, so that'll go on to next month's meeting. Item 20 is the added resolution. That was JP Deakins and JP Harbison. Council, will you read that resolution by title only?
A resolution supporting collaboration between Washington County and the National Institute of Corrections Community Services Division for technical assistance, development, and implementation of a criminal justice coordinating committee, pretrial services division, and other recommendations set forth by the National Center for State Courts.
JP, whoever's pleasure, JP Deakins, JP Harbison.
Well,
Go ahead, JP Deakins.
I'll just start.
Okay.
The National Institute of Correction is part of the government that can help, and they're going to do this free with our Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. So, you know, I think this is good. It was recommended by the people that did our National Center for Courts study. And I yield to JP Deakins.
Thank you, JP Harbison. Thank you, Judge Wood. First of all, I want to thank a couple citizens. Ms. Beth Koger and Ms. Sarah Moore brought this to our attention after doing some research. As JP Harbison said, the National Institute of Corrections was mentioned in our NCSC study as a good resource. What the what the NIC is, it's a subset of the Department of Justice, and it falls underneath the Bureau of Prisons. They have the ability to come in, and what they want to do is they want to help jurisdictions that have an incarceration, so counties or state levels, help you implement the CJCC, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, and they also want to help you examine your prison population, examine your criminal justice system, and come up with solutions, help you do that. They also want to try to help implement pretrial services. The best part about this, I had a phone conversation with two representatives with them yesterday. They want to come in, and they used a couple of phrases that really piqued my interest. They said, we're not here to offer you funds, we're here to offer you expertise, and this will be custom tailored to your situation as a county, and it will be boots on the ground. So they want to come in, they want to examine our situation, and they want to help us out. I think they were pleased that we had already invested a certain amount of this with the NCSC study, so they feel like we're here and we're ready to work with them. They said the starting point for them was to make sure the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee is on the right track, has the guidelines that they need, and then also they want to really help us start developing some data. The NCSC study talks about this a lot, data-driven decision-making. They're really big on that in the NIC. So they want to help us develop the data, how to get that data, what's the data that we want to look at, observe, and make decisions on. And so I found that really promising. What they wanted to do is they want to help us start the foundation for our next processes so that we can build a good, solid structure on a good, solid foundation. And they really iterated to me, the next step is for us to have a technical assistance program is what this is under. The best part about it is this is free. They reiterated that on the phone call yesterday. They want to come help us. This is absolutely free for the county. And so one item tonight we can talk about that won't affect the general fund for next year. And
Judith has a question.
with that, I'll finish with, they seemed very excited to work with us. They said the next step was us to fill out this technical assistance application that the judge's office would need to fill out that formalizes our relationship and allows them to start encumbering funds to help us out. So this is something that can be done immediately. They can get started as soon as we get the application in. They seem to think that it would be almost a, I don't want to say certainty, but there's a very high likelihood that Washington County could be chosen for this. They don't have a heavy footprint in the state of Arkansas right now, and they're really interested in getting in here and helping us out. So I move passage of this. I hope we can all get behind this and get the resources in here at this county and keep continuing down this path that we've already started on. So I move passage of this resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion, JP Harbison and then JP Sue Madison.
Yanez.
JP Yanez and then JP Sue Madison.
So thank you, Judge. I am concerned, and I know out of everyone in the court, like I work with the community the most, and my background is having culturally responsive communities that can speak on the issues of the communities in a way that's not an echo chamber. But JP Deacon said that, this, I'm all for this, but they're here to help us build a foundation. And we've already established a committee that the demographics are not what we need to pull this forward in a way that will be progressive. And I don't mean progressive when you think of progressive, you're, Democrat, radical left, not that progressive. We need to move in a different direction in Washington County. And what we have in that committee, the foundation that we have already established, is an echo chamber. This requires a lot of work for us to step back and see our own biases. And I'm just going to say this honestly, what I've experienced with law enforcement in the area is when you start digging in deep of what the issues are, you start getting backlash. And I myself have dealt with this. So we need to examine that committee again and really look for those people in the area that have experience with social justice issues. This will benefit our county. And I just needed to say that because we have already not started in a foundation that will benefit this county. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Yanez. JP Sue Madison.
I didn't have my question up.
Oh, I thought your hands were up. Any other discussion? JP Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. I'm going to vote no against this because I believe that number one is a single narrative. And that narrative is data-driven with an objective. You can always make the data fit your objective. And that is my concern. The whole objective was to form a committee, and it has been ever since the beginning. I went back and I looked at all the information that the Criminal Justice Reform or Citizens for Criminal Justice Reform started giving us, and I found that the objective every single time was to form a committee. I'm concerned about that because the committee does not have any authority over any of the other elected officials in their capacity to implement any recommendation. I was against the study to begin with because it's not going to have any teeth. There's nothing you can do to follow through. If judges don't want to implement this, they don't have to. So therefore, it is just a resolution. But I am concerned that it is a single narrative, and any wise homeowner, business owner knows that you always get 3 bids before you make your final decision. This has only been one narrative with an objective to form a committee to micromanage other elected officials' positions, telling them what is the best course for them to take based on all the data. So their objective is to gain control over the elected officials. Not in America. We don't do that in America. You might do that in another socialist country, but not here. So I'm voting no.
JP Eki, thank you. JP Lemming, and then JP Eva Madison.
Can I ask Patrick a question? He might be able to answer for me.
He's not supposed to.
What group, is this a government group, or was this just a,
It's a part of the federal government under
so,
the Department of Justice, and then it's the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and then so this is part of the federal government.
so it's taxpayers-based pay?
And I'm sorry I didn't give more background on that. This is a group that is controlled by an advisory group of, I think, 14 members that are chosen and appointed by the Attorney General of the United States of America.
Thank
So
you.
this is the federal government wanting to come to local jurisdictions and try to help out.
That's good. It's paid for by the state taxpayers, the country state pay.
The federal taxpayers.
Federal taxpayers anyway. Okay, thank you.
JP Eva Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I have to say that it's very refreshing, if not a rarity, that this proposal is coming to us with bipartisan participants and sponsors effectively. And that alone is really reason for me to give it an endorsement. Moreover, it's free. Why do we get bids on something that's free? I don't know how we beat that. This is an organization that was recommended in the study that we commissioned. And I know for one that the study that we had done was done by an entity that Judge Lindsay was supportive of. And so I say, why not? Let's see what these folks have to say. Sarah Moore and Beth Koger took the time to bring it to JP Deacons and JP Harbison. And let's do something positive and work across the aisle. So I'm fully supportive of this, and I am grateful for the folks that brought this forward to us.
JP Deacons.
JP Deacons.
Thank you, Judge. Let me rebut a mindset that's so destructive to this whole process. And let me frame this whole thing with the NIC. This is JP Eki, one of the few things she's right about in her statement was, we cannot tell the elected officials what to do with this issue. And that is not the intent of this group. And if you read the NCSC study, that is not the intent of any criminal justice coordinating committee. In fact, quite the opposite. It's a group that comes together in collaboration with our elected officials to try to facilitate communication between them and us and try to identify problems that need to be addressed and what resources they need. If this group comes in and gives us suggestions for free and we don't like them, then we don't accept them. We still maintain the respect of the offices of all of our elected officials. I've talked to all of them. And I think the collective thing I'm getting is they're all ready to do something and work together. And I commend all of them for being open to do that. And I want to thank them for that. This is a collaboration. This is us working together. If we get this out of the politics, that's another big thing about the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, we have to remove this from the politics. That's what we got to do. The mindset that was displayed here about coming in and taking over and data-driven to a certain narrative, that's not true at all. And I invite any of the JPs to reach out to this group and talk about it. That mindset is why we had the jail problem when we got here, and it hadn't been addressed in so many years. So I'm asking everybody to work together and let's do something different. Thank you very much, Judge Wood.
Thank you, JP Deacons. Public comments.
Matt Durrett.
Prosecutor Attorney. Matt Durrett.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all letting me speak, and I hope y'all will bear with me because I'll try not to go on too long. But this is something that's extremely important to me because I've seen what these past 7 months have done to our system in my office. And I don't want to overstate this, and other people may disagree, but we are drowning. I look at, and I can speak for my office only, I look at what my employees are doing every day. And I have employees who are getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning in order to get things done so that we can get things going, so that we can keep the trains running. And I'm a man, I'm an elected official. I was elected by the people of Washington and Madison counties, and I have pride in that. And I'm a prideful person, but that has its limits. That I'm not so prideful that I can't accept help from others. And I'm looking for help from anyone, because when all of this stops, this is going to be a nightmare for all of us. And this is, I've explained this before. I've used this analogy before. The faucet is going full blast, and the drain is clogged, and everybody is doing their best. We're doing our best. The public defenders are doing our best, but COVID, and I don't want this to seem insensitive, because it's a poor choice of terms, but I don't know another way to put it. But this COVID situation is killing us, and we are so backed up, and we have people who are working their dead level best to do every single thing they can to keep this process moving, and it's grinding to a halt. And I have, like I said, I'm a prideful person, but I can put my pride aside and say that I will welcome whatever help there is, because we need to get this problem solved, because at some point things are going to get back to normal, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare for all of us, because there are so many issues, there are so many different things that are involved in this. There's so many moving parts to this equation, and it's going to come to a head, and it's going to be a horrible, horrible situation. And I tell you, for all the people, I know for myself, and I'm not alone in this, because there are plenty of other people who feel this way. This keeps me up at night, worried about what's going to happen in the future. And so I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know the solution, but I'm open to whatever anyone can suggest. I may not agree with everything, but I'm not going to sit there and say no to whatever. So my point is, I don't know enough about this proposal, but I'm looking for help, and I think that all the system can use some help. So whatever y'all can do, I'm in favor of. I'm in favor of whatever can help the situation, and I'll do whatever I can. So I apologize for taking up so much time, but thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Counselor. Beth Koger.
Yes, thank you, Judge Wood and Prosecutor Durrett and JP Dickens and JP Madison. I've spoken to these people at the National Institute of Corrections, and anyone on the court can do that. I have their contact information. They really want to come here, and they really want to help us. And when I say they're experts, that's not enough. They're not just experts. They're the experts. They're under the United States Department of Justice. I mean, how can you question that? The United States Department of Justice. And they do this all the time. And under the Community Services Division, they helped over 3,500 people last year. And I want to recommend to the court that you go online to the NIC website and create a free account, because you can do that and you can take courses online from the NIC. I've done that. I've taken 3 courses, and I plan to take a lot more, because I want to learn from these people. It's like these not only are the experts, they're recommended several times in the Criminal Justice Assessment Study by the National Center of State Courts. And I want to say again that it's free, and we're getting free advice and help from the top experts in the whole country. So I don't see how we can not do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth Koger. Any other public comments? I just want to make a comment that, again, I think passing the budget is clearly going to be the biggest work of the court this year, but I think the second is going to be getting this study done and now the work of the results of that study. And so this resolution passes, I will be looking forward to getting that application in. And again, the first meeting that the CJCC will be October 23rd at noon. And we will have Shelley Cern, who was the executive director to run that study. She will be on the facilitated. If you read through the study, you reminded, one of the things they said that we really shouldn't have the elected officials running it. So I would start it, but allow the study folks to help facilitate that. JP Deacons, if you would give me the contacts that you spoke with, and maybe we can invite them as well to that meeting as well, to be a part of that first kickoff meeting, so we can start formulating and laying out the guidelines of where we're going to be heading. Obviously, looking at those recommendations, any low-hanging fruits, committees that we would need to form, et cetera.
Absolutely, Judge Wood. I thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Patty, will you go ahead and take the roll?
One more question, Judge, if I may, please make a comment.
No.
That was not in our
Brief,
packet.
super brief.
That resolution, the language was not in the packet that was given to me.
Okay.
I don't know
Ms.
if
Patty?
anybody else has your packet.
It's online.
Ms. Patty, take the roll.
Willie Lemming,
Sure.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deacons,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Now that I have the facts, yes, thank you.
yes. Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shonda Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins, Suki Hires,
Yes.
and Sue Madison.
Yes.
This passes.
Excellent. All right, item 21, committee reports. County Service Finance and Budget, JP Harbison.
Well, we've had a lot of meetings. Let's see. We met, does everybody want to hear this? We met and we're working on the budget, and we'll continue to work on the budget, and we will at some point get a budget passed. Thank you.
And with no jails and no personnel, long meeting, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn. Second?
Motion and second.
Bye.
Washington County Quorum Court is now adjourned.